All right, so now that I have the engine mocked up in there, I think it's a good time to figure out this radiator situation here. They do make swap radiators for the Challenger and the Hemi, I believe, but I think that's mostly because I believe on a car Hemi engine, which is a much more common swap, the radiator outlet is over on this side. So it kind of makes it challenging to route the hose back and around over here or whatever. So they make a radiator where it's moved over on this side and it just kind of goes, you know, cross flow or something. In my case though, the outlet is actually on the driver's side, which is, I guess a factory small block would have it right here in the middle, more or less. So, you know, the thing would route right here and then it would come back around over there. So I think what I'm going to do is attempt to use the factory radiator for this thing. My car was a factory AC car, meaning that it has the bigger radiator and the bigger radiator opening, which is very helpful in a hot climate like mine. So I do have the larger 26-inch radiator from the factory. Let me show you there. This guy. And I just don't see any reason why this wouldn't work for the Hemi. I mean, it cooled the small block just fine. You know, this radiator was meant for big blocks as well, and even, you know, the big Hemi engine, the original Hemi. So is there any reason why this wouldn't work? It does have the inlet and the outlet on the right sides as well, so it's kind of already set for it. So let me throw this guy in there now. Now the truck style Hemi, or you know, the Durango Hemi, also used the same sort of manual clutch style fan, and I'm not sure if that's gonna line up with the factory shroud on my current radiator. I doubt it. That would be a big coincidence, but it's worth checking it out. I mean, I think I want to run electric fans anyway, so I doubt I'll end up using this, but who knows? You know, if it lines up close enough, that might be sort of a temporary solution or something like that. I'm curious if this lines up. Let's check it out. All right, well, it doesn't fit. It's pretty close, actually. I didn't really expect it to. That was kind of more out of curiosity. The fan sits a little bit higher than the shroud there, as you can see. So, you know, I suppose if, I mean, there is some clearance here by the water tube. So I suppose if you move this thing up and then maybe even, you know, cut out a little notch right here, I don't see why you couldn't just move up this fan shroud and make it fit. I do see enough clearance, so the actual diameter of the fan itself seems like it would fit in that original shroud. So you probably could make this work. All right, so now that I got this guy in here and I have the radiator mounted, I might as well see about these radiator hoses, see what I'm gonna do. So instead of getting a universal sort of bendable radiator hose, I'm gonna attempt the old coat hanger and auto parts store trick. You know, it's a pretty simple bend here, so I'm hoping something will work. So first is to measure this guy, and let's see here. That one is 1 3/4 inches, and this guy's a little bit smaller. So this one here, 1.5 inches. All right, so we're looking for 1 3/4 inches at the top, 1.5 inches at the bottom. Oh, wait, 1.5 inches at the top, 1 3/4 inches at the bottom. Pretty much the same deal on this other side here too. Just a pretty simple bend, you know, like a 90 degree. And this guy does angle down a little bit, so I'll just need to find something that fits that pattern. And I think the sizes are different down here. Let's take a look. So the out hose here is quite big. That guy is 2 inches. And then this guy down here is 1 3/4 inches. Interesting. So I guess they both scale down 1/4 inch at the radiator. I'll look it up, but I'm pretty sure that's how the original Dodge Durango Hemi radiator worked too. The radiator outlets were like 1/4 inch less. I've already sold that radiator, unfortunately, so I can't really check it out, but all right, let's bend some coat hangers.
No girl had looked at me like that before, even though I knew your name. We had some time to catch up. I know that you know, I figured you out. Took me a while, but I got there somehow. Conversation, mixed emotions. I made my move without a doubt. I get the feeling that we're playing in the power lines. Wide awake, way up.
All right, success. The guys down at Pep Boys were nice enough to let me rifle through their radiator hose aisle. So I spent about an hour back there trying to find just the right hoses, but I think I found two pretty close ones. So this guy is my lower radiator hose, and this is pretty much perfect. Look how close that guy is. That's exactly the shape I need. And the upper one here is right there. So that guy, that guy isn't quite angled right, but it's actually quite easy just to twist that guy right into shape there. I guess there's also this way too. I guess I have two options for this guy. Either like that. Yeah, actually I think that's probably what I saw at the store there. That's perfect. Look at that thing. So unfortunately I didn't find anything that had the correct sizing here, the diameter. So I just went with the smaller size. So this guy's 1.5 inches on both ends, and this guy's 1.75 inches on both ends. So I'm hoping to be able to stretch it just that 1/4 inch around the engine side. There's pretty much no hope of finding not only the exact shape, but different sized openings on each end. So this was the best I could go with. If these guys don't work out though, you know, I always have the plan B, which is just to get those flexible, you know, universal radiator hoses. And just in case you were curious, this guy's the radiator hose from a 69 to 79 Ford F100 truck, which is pretty cool. And this guy's the radiator hose from a mid-2000s Kia. So yeah, interesting. So I want to see how these guys fit. These are the two pieces of the transmission crossmember. This is the back one, and then this one is the front one. So the two of them kind of go, you know, they slot in right there underneath the transmission. And once I have these, you know, perfectly fitting up underneath the transmission, then I'm gonna kind of build it, you know, like that, and then box in everything just to allow it to kind of mount up into that crossmember. So let's see how these guys fit up in there, and then we'll mark for any adjustments that we need to make.
Don't be shy and don't get hasty. Let's give into the time that we're wasting. Moments like these.
So this front crossmember piece is just a little bit too far forward, and it actually hits the back of the transmission there, right there, and you know, on both sides. So I kind of had a feeling this would happen when I was doing the cardboard templates. It was very tight in there, and I think the cardboard was just kind of bending around this thing. So I think the solution is just to put a couple of bends in it right here and right there, just to kind of bend it around this thing a little bit. And yeah, I think that'll work out just fine.
I get the feeling that we're playing in the power lines. Wide awake, way after midnight. Make this moment electrified. Wide awake, way after midnight. I get the feeling that we're playing in the power lines. Wide awake, way after midnight. Make this moment electrified. Wide awake, way after midnight. Take it off, all off, take it off, all off, take it off, all off, take it off.
All right, there we go. Not too bad. Has about say like a 1 inch clearance now, or maybe 1/2 inch. Yeah, pretty cool. Let's see how it fits. Ah, perfect. Nice. Yeah, no, there's actually a good bit of clearance here. At least half an inch of clearance. I can get my fingers all the way around it. One thing I did, I guess, is I made those sides push in, so now it's hitting this this bracket here. So I'm gonna have to trim off a little bit of those sides. But as far as clearance goes, I think we're spot on. Let's see if we can get a shot. Yep, there you go. Perfect. Well, I ended up having to bend out the back one, similar to what I did to the front one. The reason for this isn't because of clearance, but because I noticed that the transmission mount bolts were actually right in the middle of this piece right here, so I wouldn't have been able to bolt the thing in. Here, I'll show you. All right, as you can see now, there's room, but before this bar was actually just right on top of those bolt holes, so there was no chance of getting bolts through this thing. So I bent it backwards, which should somewhat match the pattern of the front one, and you know, it should be okay. Well, we're getting pretty close here. Got this side lining up pretty good, and this side needs to be twisted just a little bit more. It's not quite flush with that right there. A lot of back and forth cutting and twisting and cutting and twisting, and it ended up more or less where I was looking to put it. Now, one thing is, you know, if I position this just right, I actually still can get this, I should be able to get this shifter still out of here. So, you know, I do want it up as high as possible, but just high enough so that I can still get that out of there. You know, it doesn't actually need a lot of clearance. I could really get this up close to it, right about there, I think, actually. Yeah, I can still get that out of there. So that's where I'm shooting for, is just right up against that thing. You know, I did realize one thing, is that I might be able to remove this without bolts, but of course I will never be able to get these bolts out of there. So I just don't know if there's really any hope for being able to remove this without dropping the transmission down. All right, I think I got this guy pretty much in his final place here. Looks pretty good, everything's flat. Goes right up against the edge there. I guess it's time to tack weld it. I hope I don't trap anything in there. I mean, I can still get this guy out there, so that's not a problem. Yeah, let's do it.
Calling out my name.
All right, got this thing tack welded in there, and yeah, I think it looks pretty good. The clearance behind here is just enough to get my finger around, just about the same as it is up here, so I think we're good there. I think this is going to help shape the tunnel too. It'll kind of give a, you know, sort of a template or like a brace to shape that guy. And I guess I'll just follow the curve right here. So we'll just go straight down like that. Clearance is good. I can still take this guy out easily. That's important. All right, sweet. Look at that thing. Got this guy fully bolted on there. Both sides are looking pretty good. They're lining up with each other pretty well. There's a few parts I didn't fully carve off, like this guy. I need to cut out this place where the exhaust is going to go, and same with this guy too. A little bit more cutting there, but that's easy to do once it's in here. Now that it's bolted in there, you can really see why the bends needed to be here to clear the back of this cross member here. You know, that's just barely hugging the back of that cross member, but good clearance. And same with this guy. You can see that this bend here needed to go around the bolt holes there. Otherwise, this thing would have went straight into the bolts. So it actually worked out pretty well. These two sort of like equal bends ended up kind of following the same path around, and I wouldn't call it the prettiest cross member ever made, but you know, I'll have time to smooth out the rough edges or whatever once I get these pieces. You know, maybe I'll do some measurements and make sure all these things are square here before actually tack welding little pieces in there. But it's a good start. So the original cross member bolted in with 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I ended up having to cut out those inner bolts. The inner bolts ended up somewhere, around here, wherever there is no cross member anymore. So I'm gonna have to pick another location for 2 more bolts. I'm gonna have to be careful because that new, inside upper cross member support, whatever, piece is up here, and it's going to be in the way of a lot of these areas. So, I'll pick somewhere, somewhere around here, wherever there's a clear space. Same with that side, and drill right through, and I think we'll be good. All right, I got the cross member bolted in here, or I guess the 2 pieces of the cross member bolted in here. And I put a little piece of steel there just to hold the engine mount or the transmission mount there. And I got this thing sitting under its own weight. I moved the jack down, and it's sitting pretty good. Had to open up these holes here. I'm bumping this up to 1/2-inch bolts, so I had to widen the holes out a little bit and get them all lined up. But I'm pretty excited how this thing is sitting in there. I think it's about time to, at this point, I just need to cut a couple of pieces to hold this thing together, tack weld some pieces to hold it together, keep its shape, and then we can pull this thing out of there and just fully weld it. All right, let's see what we got going on up top here. So for this side, I have one of the bolts going through. This was the original outer bolt for the crossmember. And then I have the other one, if you can see it, it's underneath this supporting thing here. On this side, since this guy slopes down a little bit more, whatever, I was able to get both bolts above it. Not that it really matters, but you know, it's a little rough around the edges, but it's definitely holding the transmission in there, and I think it's going to be pretty strong. All right, so now that I have this thing bolted up and positioned pretty well, the next thing to do is to kind of stiffen it up and make sure when I take this off, it maintains its position. So I cut a couple of pieces of steel here down to the exact width that this guy's supposed to be. So these are a perfect fit in there. And you know, when you go move down here, they're a little bit loose. It's pretty close, but I'm gonna position those guys in there, and I'm gonna clamp the sides down so that I can tack weld these guys in there, and it'll hopefully keep its shape and keep its position while I fully weld this guy out.
The sunlight breathing out a prayer that it stays right. Pretty distractions and days full of dreaming leave me unprepared. 'Cause I've been dealing with these demons in my mind, telling me which way to go and what to decide. Whatever I do, I just can't escape you.
All right, well, that came out pretty good. I wasn't sure how rigid this thing would, these little pieces would keep this guy, but it seems to have kept it exactly in shape, you know. There's no real obvious like flexing, you know, a little bit here, but that's okay because these guys are going to be clamped down. This guy seems really solid, so yeah, pretty happy about that. Let's flip this guy. So that'll give me a good sort of starting point at the frame of this guy to box it in. And you know, I haven't decided exactly how I'm gonna work that yet, but I suppose just you know, probably from here like a box in, and then I'll probably keep some of these cross beams. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll even just keep these guys in there. Maybe some other pieces, you know, in there just to create as much rigidity as possible. So one thing I did make sure to do was before I took this thing out of there is to measure. It's really hard to see, but I did measure the, there you go, that's just, so this line right here is exactly parallel with the bottom of the transmission mount. So that's going to be my sort of reference point. And you know, these aren't too far off, but it's not a perfectly, you know, it's not a perfectly straight flat piece here. So I'm just going to put that down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw another line here, you know, measure this guy, and then just draw another parallel line right at the very top of this guy, just to make sure I make these guys both flat, even with each other, and parallel with the transmission mount. I bought this 3/16 flat steel here. I'm just gonna put that guy on there, you know, cut it down to size, weld it in, and drill a couple of holes for that thing.